Good morning, everyone. We're going to paint this very unique house in Gloucester, Mass. Some say that Edward Hopper stayed there during his time in Gloucester. This is really a challenge to drawing, so take your time and really draw this house out as best you can. It's a wonderful way to develop your drawing skills. All right, we'll drop the sky in. This is Windsor blue with a touch of ultramarine blue, and just paint around the house. Take your time. Try to get some nice washes in, try not to do the licking that I see so often with many students. They just go over and over instead of letting the paint drop. Let the paint do the work. Okay, some raw sienna on the lawn here. This is straight raw sienna right out of the tube. And just above the fence, notice I put a real angle on the fence to lead the viewer into the painting rather than have a fence going straight across, which really is an obstruction to the viewer. So anyway, so raw sienna. While I'm here, I'm just gonna take some of that Windsor blue and put it in these windows. There's a lot of light, sky reflecting in those windows, especially on the top, and I guess a little bit on that bottom window. All right, so the side of the house, the whole side of the house is in shadow, so this is a mixture. I just mix up a blue-gray, okay? This is ultramarine, a little bit of raw sienna in there, a little bit of rose to mix up a value that you feel is and I drop some raw sienna in there at the top. You can see very often, the light bounces off the lawn and bounces up towards the house and gives you that nice light look. Okay, so you can see it's very gray blue, and just cover the whole shadow of the house. Okay, everything that's in shadow. You can drop some rose in there if you want. Just make up your shadow color, whatever you see as a shadow color. Nice shadow coming off that portico on the house. Same thing. I added a little drop of Windsor blue there, getting a little more light in the front, and then there's a sprinkle of raw sienna coming off the lawn there. So I added it in there, and it comes right around where the stairs are, right along the gutter line. A little more violet there than the other side. But it'll all dry up nice and light. Big shadow on the side of those dormers. Teaches you a lot about shadows and reflective light when you're doing these buildings, And they're really good for you to do. They really are in your brushwork and your whole development. All right, I'm painting the roof here. This is just the gray ultramarine. Same thing, get some ultramarine with some raw sienna and rose. That'll give you that nice gray. You can keep it, it doesn't look it on here, but I like to keep it towards the blue because it's reflecting the sky. It's getting a lot of reflection from the sky. It'll dry up a lot lighter. Remember, if it looks right, it's probably wrong. And watercolor dries so much lighter. And I'm dropping a little cobalt blue on the top of that roof to pick up the reflection of the sky. As it dries, you'll see it gets a little bit lighter up there. Clean up those edges. There's a little piece of a roof out back there. Looks like they added a room on at some point. I'm going to drop a little bit of blue in these windows. Some great windows. It's a great looking house, you know, great looking old colonial, I guess, early period house. That's Windsor blue reflecting in those windows. This is a white house, and there's a lot of little crevices, you know, that have shadows around them, and you want to get those a little at a time. This is a very dark bush on the right side of the house. Ultramarine with quinsienna, and you can push it towards the quinsienna if you want, you know, that whole thing, and then take the side of your brush and develop those branches. If you can develop a skill for doing that, you know, use the side of your brush, a very dry brush. You can pull that wet paint right up in there. Can really develop a beautiful sense for trees and leaves and all kinds of shrubbery. In so many paintings, you know, you're always working with that, with trees. You can't get away from them. Okay, and I'll go on this side. Same thing on this side. There's a real deep sense of shrubbery and bushes and trees in the background, and it's a nice backdrop against the White House, so it makes that White House pop. And you can push that either in the blue or the rose, or, you know, whatever sense you feel. You don't want it to be real black, you know, you don't want the black, that's too much of a hole. All right, so I'm pushing the quinsienna here. There's a bush that comes around the side of the house here. Again, using the side dry brush, you know, really dry brush, developing the bushes. Same on the trees in the back there. I'm kind of rushing through it here, but you can take your time and really, like I say, you can really master this skill of using a dry brush to develop trees and bushes, and it's a skill you will have all your whole life as an artist, you know, because you just can't get away from doing trees if you're doing landscapes. All right, very dry brush. I'm just rubbing it down, joining this light shape and the dark shape. And now we have a bunch of branches, trunks. Put as many as you want in there, and it really joins those two shapes. All right, we have the deep shadows now on the dormers. This really puts light on the house, you know, it's the shadows that make that white pop, you know, on the house. We'll join those two shadows. So that dormer is really casting a nice deep shadow on the house. ultramarine, quinceanna, a little bit of rose, some nice dark in these windows. I didn't leave any mullions here, but you could always go back and lift out a mullion, or even use a little drop of gouache if you wanted to, if they were really that important. But they're not, you know, they're really not that important. Little reflective shadows up in the windows. Nice shadow on this roof. Now I was going to leave that corner of light on that small roof, but you can see by leaving that it begins to fight with the front of the house for attention, and we don't want that. It's the house, the front of the house really should be getting all the attention. All right, so I think the shadow on the side is too light, so I'm going back. It's all nice and dry, so going back and putting another wash of blue on that. It's the same shadow color. Ultra, little Windsor blue. Added a little extra Windsor blue for the front where it's getting more light, and it gives you a nice little variation in the shadow. It's good. All these little pieces of molding that have a little shadow on them, they all add to the character of the house, you know. Beautiful woodwork here. This stuff would cost so much now to do. These old houses were so labor intensive, you know. Little shadow on the windows. All right, a little cadmium red mixed with cobalt blue will give you a beautiful chimney color of those bricks. And you paint the whole chimney first, and then when it dries, we can go back in and do this shadow side. Get a nice sharp edge. Okay. All right, so put a nice shadow. Same colors, red, cad red with blue, to get that dark. Okay, there's a window on the side of this portico here. All right, there's a nice dark base to the foundation. I'll sit it right down. Follow that right out onto the steps. Casting a little shadow onto the lawn. It goes all the way around the house. Right, I'm not going to bother with all the pickets in the fence, you know, this is just, and I don't want all that detail down there. I don't want, you know, the attention to be on the fence. It's just, so I'm just going to put enough. You notice, as I said before, I have a nice diagonal on the fence so that when you look at it, your eye goes right up towards the house and around. So I'm just going to put enough into that fence, but not too much, and then it has a beautiful stone wall under it. So I'm just going to suggest a lot of these stones and go right around. Bring it down a little more. That's raw sienna with a little touch of blue, ultramarine. And if it gets too blue or green, add a little rose. Just get a nice shadow down there. Okay. Always nice to do these houses, you know. It's always good to do a nice white house and work with those shadows. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you again very soon. Hope you all had a wonderful holiday.